This week, we're sticking a fork in nostalgic New York.
Fresh mozzarella, fresh linguine, parmigiano reggiano, seafood risotto, pasta al forno, a pizza oven straight from Salerno, and the most holy cannoli. Some say Arthur Avenue is the real Little Italy, with shops that date back over 100 years.
You guys can just leave me here to die.
Plus a road trip in search of Nocella gelato paninis and a Nutella frozen hot chocolate.
That is sick.
Mommy, the New York starts right now.
I'm walking around and feeling fine. The sun is shining in my face. Crossing the street, cars are passing by. Thinking how I love this place. Can you feel the wind in your hair? I look out for you, I'll be there.
One of my favorite ways to spend a perfect Saturday is right here on Arthur Avenue. Come hungry and be ready to mangia bene. Now, not only is it where my great-grandmother raised her 5 sons, but it's where cultures of all types come together to experience nostalgic New York. While Little Italy has shrunk over time, Arthur Avenue has remained relatively untouched, with some shops that are over 100 years old. Now, some residents even claim that this is the real Little Italy, but before we explore, we can't help but wonder, who put the Arthur in the Avenue?
There is a dispute about how this road became known as Arthur Avenue. On one camp, you've got this guy who in the 19th century is surveying the street, whose first name is Arthur and his last name is Hoffman. 2 parallel roads here, Arthur and Hoffman. On the other side, you've got the Beauregard-Wolfe family, an incredibly wealthy 19th century family who had a country estate in what is now Belmont section of the Bronx. They were some of the founders of the Metropolitan Museum of Art, ridiculously wealthy Manhattanites. They were great fans of President Chester A. Arthur and asked that the street be named for him. Now, what's really interesting about Chester A. Arthur is that in 1871, he was the New York City Commissioner of Courts. He was notoriously corrupt. He was later named as President Garfield's vice president and ended up in the White House as Garfield dies. He became a champion of reform, signed the Pendleton Act, which is a phenomenal federal reform act. And Mark Twain actually said that it would be virtually impossible to top the prestige of Chester Arthur's administration.
Now, the Pendleton Act was a federal law that stipulated that government jobs should be awarded on the basis of merit, but it also proved to be Arthur's undoing, as it offended certain politicians within the Republican Party. But it wasn't until 40 years later that the Arthur Avenue we know now began to take shape.
Arthur Avenue became an Italian neighborhood really in the 1920s and into the 1930s. It is the 3rd area of settlement for a lot of Italian and Italian immigrants. Coming to America through Ellis Island, going to the Lower East Side in Little Italy, stereotypically moving to the East Harlem area. From there, coming to this section of the Bronx.
Now, just after World War I, as Arthur Avenue began to flourish, the Immigration Act of 1924 effectively put an abrupt end to the large flow of Italian immigrants into the country. But the Italian-American community wholeheartedly supported the war effort. In fact, it was estimated that Italian-American soldiers made up more than 10% of the total American forces, a disproportionately high percentage of the total. And Cicciarone Park here in Belmont pays homage to one of those lost soldiers. Today, Belmont's residential neighborhood is a rich ethnic mix of Italians, Hispanics, African Americans, and Albanians. But its Italian roots can be seen on almost every street corner.
Now, your early risers are going to want the best place for breakfast. For my perfect Saturday recommendation, let's head to my favorite bakery, where its illustrious past is as intriguing as the amazing pastries.
Egidio's pastry shop has been here for a century, showcasing seductive sweets. But the history of this shop reads more like an Italian soap opera. Over 100 years ago, the original owner came to America following some trouble with the Italian authorities, and convinced a wealthy uncle to back him in opening up a pastry shop. He intended on his favorite daughter to inherit the store, but his spouse secretly altered the will 3 days after her husband died, giving it to her son. The current owner, Carmela Lucciola, herself an Italian immigrant, acquired the store in 1996. And it is in the back where she shows us evidence of baking techniques that date back to the time when Sicily, the birthplace of the holy cannoli, was controlled by the Arabs.
This is old school, my friend. This is no cannoli factory. This is by hand with love, made in the traditional way. I love it. The cannoli sticks. The cannoli sticks. I can't believe I never knew there was a cannoli stick. Oh my God.
Delicious. You like the cream? Oh no, let me give you one too.
God, you guys can just leave me here to die.
Now, after you're fueled up on pastries, you may want to take an Italian ice for the road and head straight to the marketplace where you can really get a feel of yesteryear.
Originally a sheep's meadow, the Arthur Avenue Market is where you will find locals shopping alongside tourists. Spearheaded by Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia, this market served to clean up New York City.
Beginning in the 1930s, to clean up the city and get pushcart peddlers off the street, he opened a series of retail markets that were city-run, and now only 4 of them survive. The whole idea was get off the street, come in here, you can function year-round, make enough money, move to a storefront. Arthur Avenue is probably the most traditional of the ones dating back from the 1930s and early 40s. A lot of what we see being sold around us is what you would have seen when this opened in 1940.
In fact, if you head to the back of the market, you will find the grandson of the very first butcher in the marketplace. David Greco, part ringmaster, part restaurateur. He runs Mike's Deli, which his pop started in 1947. Now, I had no intention of having a second breakfast, but you don't disagree with David.
This is homemade focaccia. So, you know, in this area, there's a lot of Italians from all over. My father's Calabrese, my mother's Napolitan, there's a lot of Sicilians, there's a lot of Barese. So this bread we picked up from the Barese. So, capicolo.
Capicolo.
This is one of the specialties. And you see, Tony, the fat is good.
That is good.
These Americans, oh, I don't eat fat. It's no flavor. And now we're gonna finish with a deluso salami. Tony, io serve una mozzarella fresca fresca. This is Sicilian unfiltered extra virgin olive oil.
Wow.
Then our own reduced balsamic. All right, you ready? You ready? Voila.
Whoa! That is a sandwich.
Manja, baby.
All right, if I have to.
This is the best sandwich I've ever had.
It's like 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, come on, it's late for us.
No matter what time of day, before you leave the market, David will make you try this. Peach Prosecco. They have it on tap, people.
Who needs water when you have
Rocky.
peach prosecco?
Coming up, it's perhaps the most perplexing decision on the planet. Just where to have lunch on Arthur Avenue. Plus, we're road tripping for the craziest ice cream sandwich we've ever encountered, paired with a Nutella frozen hot chocolate. But first, Toni On Trivia. One of cinema's most famous leading ladies was born right here on Arthur Avenue. Anna Maria Luisa Italiano, the daughter of Italian immigrants. She changed her name when Hollywood came calling and won an Oscar for her performance in The Miracle Worker. Think you know? Answers on Facebook at the end of the show.